So one of the main problems that plagues modern day gaming and just is plagued gaming and entertainment as a whole is overdoing or oversaturating a series or a trilogy with just mediocrity, right? You look at something like Halo, where the original Halo trilogy is praised and loved, but nowadays, the modern day Halo games, they're not it. You might be wondering, where are you going with this? Well, what I'm trying to say is, after playing Half-Life 2 and seeing that there was what I thought was kind of like DLC or just like some side content, which was episode 1 and 2, I wasn't really excited. And I was a little worried that maybe it wouldn't be that great or wouldn't really have much to offer. And to be honest, I'm wrong. It might be a little controversial, but I think that for a new player who's going in blindly to the Half-Life series, episode 1 and 2, while it's good that it's in Half-Life 2 and merged into it now, it is no longer like separate games. How is a player supposed to know like this is actually like very important to the series and essential? I didn't know that, and I luckily played it because I was actually considering just skipping over it because I thought it was just some little side content that wasn't too big of a deal. If you haven't played these games, you must. It's a requirement. Like I said, it's on Half-Life 2 now. It's merged with the game. So, if you have Half-Life 2, you have these games for free. You must play them. Anyways, let's get on with my review of Half-Life Episode 1 and 2. And let's start with Episode 1. I mean, I know I praised a lot of this whole Episode 1 and 2, but out of the two episodes, episode 1 is the weakest. It's like setting up the perfect game that follows this. It's not horrible, but it's just not even comparable to the second one. So I'm going to kind of breeze through this a little bit more because I have less to talk about. I have less passion towards it. I want to get more into episode 2 because I think that's where the peak really is at. So Half-Life 2 obviously ended on a huge cliffhanger, which was a huge explosion, and oh, are you going to survive? Who knows? Obviously you survive. I mean, come on, that was kind of expected. So basically Vortigons save you and do this weird like ritualistic sound and save you to teleporting you to safety, which I'm gonna be honest, when I first played this, I thought that was corny. I mean, now looking at it, it's like, okay, it makes sense, but when you see this, you're like, why are Vortigods helping you? That seems too convenient until you realize what their purpose is later on, but as of, when you play it, you're like, okay, what is this? But, like I said, a lot of the stuff here gets explained later, so it's okay. We also see that the Vortigons are kind of resisting G-Man, and, it's so interesting to see G-Man look kind of worried or like he's not in control, which shows that he's not just this superhuman guy who's just like in control of everything. Like, before this, up to this point, he just seemed like this guy who just like controlled time and everything. Like there was nothing stopping him, and his the way he could determine people's fates. Now it's like, oh, you end up being under some rubble, and you're looking around. Oh my God, the world's exploded. The whole citadel, as it's called, is in ruins. It's crazy. But it makes sense. There's obviously explosion, and eventually get to this convenient computer that's there that is barely working. You're able to communicate with Dr. Kleiner and Eli, who basically are telling you, hey, you're not gonna survive if you just try to escape this area normally. You're gonna have to contain the core in order for you to even escape and survive at all, possibly. So now you gotta go back in the Citadel, which is pretty cool. And so you got this nice little dog launching you into the Citadel with your car. It's pretty cinematic. And yeah, it's really cool how Half-Life 2 ended in you being in the Citadel and seeing it in functional and like actually used properly, and now it's just in flames and falling apart, which is just a nice change of pace, especially if you follow this up immediately after Half-Life 2. It's super interesting to see this. And you start roaming around, and next thing you know, you see this new enemy. Now, one of my gripes with Half-Life Episode 1 is that they introduce a bunch of new concepts because, obviously, as we know, Gabe Newell loves the idea of innovation. And so obviously he added new things to both these games. And a lot of the new things he adds in this game they don't work as well as they should, and they're not as cool. They're cool concepts, but they don't actually have too much of a practical use. And this example is the Stalker, which outside of like two puzzles in the game, they're not particularly like ever show up. They don't really pose much of a threat. And to me, stalkers are a cool concept. Basically, they can like laser shut doors or like electronics with just by looking at them and beaming their eyes at them. Cool concept. And the way you get around this one, which is locking the door ahead of you, is by hacking some Rolemites, another new concept, which is pretty cool. Again, cool feature, but hacking Rolemites is barely ever used. And yes, you can do it willingly, but unfortunately, it doesn't really show up often. Like you're never really going across Rolemites often enough to really be like, wow, this is a great feature. But it makes for a cool puzzle, obviously, to hack a Rollemite and have it go into this little room and kill the hunters, or I mean stalkers, sorry. Anyways, yeah, you get to a control panel and in this random room, and you end up replaying a clip of Dr. Breen, the villain from the last game, talking to some alien creature. Who knows what that is? So far, we don't know, but we got a glimpse of it last game. Now we get to see it again. Then the creature takes over the screen, and then somehow it's like getting transported. I don't get it, but who knows? But it makes you wonder. Like, okay, so clearly that there is more of to the Combine than we've seen, and also it's obvious now and very apparent that Dr. Breen was very clearly not the leader of the Combine, and I mean that's pretty obvious already. But it's very much confirmed now. It's pretty obvious that he was just kind of like he was like a pawn. He was being used like a pawn. And then you get to this nice weapon destruction room. You don't have any weapons yet, so it's basically just supercharges your gravity gun. This actually happens in Half-Life 2 near the end of the game. You actually go in probably the same room, which is pretty cool. And having this supercharged gravity gun is super fun, obviously. It's like peak low-key. You basically can just kill everything with your gravity gun, and I mean, everyone knows what it does. It's cool. And then you may reach the main core, which has an amazing puzzle. I like this sequence. It has you going through and powering some machines to contain the core, but like, you have to actually like go through the power charges and stuff. It's pretty cool. It's a nice puzzle in my opinion, and you even have to walk near the core and it can kill you, which I think is pretty interesting too. So yeah, and then you stabilize the core obviously, and then we learn Alex was able to download some information that the Combine was trying to like deliver away to wherever they're from. And then we get to see this video of Judith and talk about some project that was very important, and oh, it shouldn't be in the hands of the Combines, and make sure it's isolated from everybody. Blah 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 blah, and then oh, the cameraman conveniently gets killed, and the camera goes black. I mean, it's like it's kind of convenient how the Combine shows up the second they start recording, but okay, yeah, sure, this is pretty important. Obviously, we need to deliver this to Dr. Klein, and then you make your escape through this train, and oh wow, this train actually you're in. Oh, guess what? It's full of, I guess, zombies. I don't know how to describe it, but ooh, it breaks, and now you're full of a room that contains zombies. That's kind of freaky. And now you get out, and now you're in the underground sections of the city. I'm gonna be honest, this is where I think the game kind of becomes a little bit boring. I don't think it's fully boring, because obviously I would have just quit playing. It's just kind of, it's alright. There's cool concepts, but it gets overused. Like, up after this point, story-wise, not much happens. Like, we don't really get any new story-wise. Obviously, we're moving like the story forwards by playing, but like we don't learn more about the Combine. Nothing really happens after this point, is what I'm saying. Like, you could stop playing this game and pretty much get the full experience of the game, necessarily story-wise, which is fine, but the gameplay isn't necessarily like, oh my god, it's fantastic, it makes up for this. Which results in the later half of this game, or rather the middle half and later, kind of just being mediocre. Yeah, I know what I said. I know I said this was great, but this is a setup for what comes next, so I excuse it. So yeah, you end up walking through these dark underground tunnels under the city, and now you're fighting more zombies, and oh wow, look, there's a new enemy. The Zombie Combine. I mean, it sounds cool. I like how it sounds, and they're kind of intimidating. They really do try to kind of recreate the atmosphere of Ravenholm, which I think kind of works. The problem is it's just we know the enemies. Like Ravenholm works so well, at least for me, because it's like, wow, this place, you're hearing all these noises, you're thinking, what are these? God, what am I hearing? And you're hearing all these creepy noises. You're like, oh God, what am I experiencing? Where am I? And here it's kind of like, okay, it's just zombies. Like, we already know we've seen these guys before. So to me, it's like, okay, you're just fighting zombies. It's cool. Yeah, sure. Is it dark? Yeah, it can be intimidating sometimes, but not really. But you know, it's still fun to fight zombies. Eventually, you get to this like very dark room, where you have to like activate an Jesus Christ, elevator to get to the surface, and you know, it's just waves and waves and waves of zombies. I think this part of the game, you know, this part is pretty cool because it's just so many ways of zombies to kill. It's actually a challenge, low key. And it's also kind of scary because you can't see anything. So it's like, oh, am I going to get hit out of nowhere from behind? Who knows? You go up the elevator, and now we get to go to the surface. This part is pretty cool. Honestly, I thought this was pretty cool. Now, I always said that Half-Life, in particular, the series, is good at world building, and I think this section proves it so well. As you go to the surface, and you look around, and you feel immersed. Like, it's just like, wow, it's straight out of a movie, it feels like. We see the damage to the city that the explosion caused. I mean, there's rubble everywhere. But yeah, the world is just like, the world is built so well around you that it feels like you're actually there. It feels like you're in a movie. Like, you feel the apocalyptic vibe. You feel the despair and loss of just life. It's so interesting to me because obviously in Half-Life 2, the city for the most part was up and running, and now it's just gone. Anyways, yeah, now you start fighting against the Combine and a combination of some Combine members and these oh god, antlions, which yeah, it's cool, I guess. Nothing special. Except now you get to pick up weapons that you previously didn't have. Now, you're gonna notice in the gameplay that I don't actually use weapons. That's because I was going for an achievement where I only use like one. I think it was like one pistol bullet, and it was very specific. I can look at it because I kind of forgot, but it basically meant that I couldn't use most of the weapons in the game, except for like rocket launchers and like my gravity guns. So I didn't get to do that, but you know, it's still cool that you get to pick up weapons and be like, oh yeah, now I can finally fight back in new ways. It's cool. It reintroduces you back to how you once were. It's pretty cool. You know, one of the cool moments I just wanted to point out is that this is time where you have to go through this booby-trapped room in order to open the door from the other side. You climb like into this vent system, and then it falls apart, and then you have to dodge all these tripwires and whatnot. It's so cool. I love that aspect. I actually struggled to do it. And there's a few other times where there's like kind of booby-trapped rooms, so that's the one that to me stood out as it's like, dude, it's like it's kind of giving me those vibes of Mission Impossible vibes. I like it. Eventually, we end up meeting up with some citizens, and we get to see Dr. Klein's broadcast, and then it basically reveals it like, oh, the Combine pushed through the portals that were opened up at Black Mesa, which we kind of already knew, but like now it's like outright telling you. And that's the thing. This game, and the game after this, they really help like confirm things that you might have been questioning or just suspicions you had, which is pretty nice. Like now we know that the Combine came from the portals from Black Mesa, which is interesting to know because yeah, it could be inferred from Half-Life 2 and Half-Life 1, but now we know for sure. And then we meet up with Barney, and he basically is like, "Hey, I need help escorting some humans away from the city." So we're like, "Okay, sure." And then he's like, "Hey, here's your crowbar." And then you just kind of fight through some more reused areas from Half-Life 2. I mean, mainly the big problem I have with this game, out of especially when comparing it to Half-Life 2 and Half-Life 2 Episode 2, is that it's basically Half-Life 2, just reused assets from Half-Life 2. That's what it feels like. Sure, there's some innovations, but there's nothing really new. Like, you're not going anywhere new. It's pretty much all the city, the Citadel. I mean, sure, is it destroyed now? Yeah, but that's the only difference. Like, most of the enemies are the exact same. The experience is super similar. Yes, it's not exactly the same, but it gets old somewhat quick, and that's the main problem. Anyways, you know, you go and help people escort the people from the station. I thought this part was cool. It just lasts a little too long for my liking personally because there's just too many citizens. But you know, it's still cool. You're fighting off all these people, you know, all these Combine members, and making sure no one dies. So now, after you know saving all these citizens, you can finally leave the city by train to get to where you need to go. But of course, now there's a Combine Strider, you know, guarding the area, and I'm gonna be honest, this is probably one of my favorite sections of the entire game. Actually, it is my favorite section. You got this Strider attacking you, but like basically there's like no cover, so you basically are running cover to cover, and then you have to pick up rockets and shoot them, and then immediately go back to cover. You'll just die instantly. Plus, there's some Combine members going through. It's cool. I love it. Basically, using the environment to your advantage. So you get into the train, and as you're driving away, oh, the Citadel's being used to send a transmission through the portal to the Combine, and all these little, well, I don't even know what, probably like some pods or something, start flying in the sky. And next thing you know, oh, there's an explosion, and oh, the screen blanks out. That's the end. Now, I would be mad that, like, oh, it ends on a cliffhanger, but, episode 2, it follows up immediately after, so it's not a big deal to me. I'm sure if it was, like, this was the game and there was no episode 2 after this, immediately after this, I'd be pretty upset about that, because it's just kind of like, why? But I can't be mad at it. Overall, I don't think this is necessarily a bad game, but, it's setting up the stages for what 2 does, and 2 is just so much better. So let's get into the episode 2. Now, episode 2, oh my god, is peak. It is so good, which is very rare for me to say, but honestly, it is just so good. So anyways, it starts off with you in a train crash. So yeah, you remember that explosion? Oh, looks like your train got derailed. And now Alex finds you and rescues you. Alright, now you go to this clearing and you get a good view of the City 17, and wow, it's worse than ever. Yeah, and also it's interesting. I don't know how to describe it, but looking at this city that's apocalyptic, I can't say that word right, but it's like ruined, and it has this gigantic beam, unnatural beam of just light going into the portal. Really just feels, it makes me feel some. I don't know how to describe it besides saying it makes the world feel so unique. Like, this is not happening anywhere else, like in any other story that I've come across, read, or movie watched. It's just so unique to me. Point is, it just feels so different and interesting. The idea that the city that I've been in for pretty much 2 games now is ruined and has this unnatural portal going in with a huge beam going into it. It's just weird. Then the shockwave hits, and pretty much, even though you're pretty far and you're thinking, wow, it's not going to affect me. Oh, no, it does. Because suddenly things around you start moving around, and some rocks move and whatnot. Which shows how unstable the portal probably is, I'd imagine. Anyways, you get into the shack and talk to Eli through his computer and Dr. Klein. And they're basically saying, hey, the portal's heading towards a super portal, so that the Combine could come back in even bigger numbers to Earth than ever before, or something like that. And then Eli mentions the 7-hour war, which is, as far as I'm aware, one of the only times it's mentioned in the game, which is a nice piece of lore, and it's even got turned into its own game. I think Half-Life Alyx has represented the 7-hour war. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. I'm never gonna play that game because I don't own a VR, but it is what it is. Anyways, the point is it's cool that we get to know something like the 7-hour war, because it just adds more lore to the game and helps explain kind of what it was like when humans invaded. Obviously, we don't fully know. Well, I'm sure we do now, but I haven't played Half-Life Alyx, so I actually don't know. But anyways, we found out that the data that we stole from the Combine has this portal code which could actually stop the portal. And by stealing it, it's actually stopping the Combine from doing their plans. And now the Combine is after us. So we got to move fast and get to Dr. Klein and Eli in order to, give it to them so they can do what they need to do with that. And as soon as you start getting away from here, you get into this train yard, and this is one of my most fascinating moments of this game. Basically, you start hearing these weird noises. So you go on this rooftop, you go in this building, and oh my god, you look behind you, boom! This creature, this abomination is right behind you. It actually freaked me out. I was fucked up. I don't say that lightly. I was scared as shit. I'm also a pussy. But anyways, yeah, and then basically this creature actually ends up attacking Alex, and Alex basically is dead. I honestly thought that Alex was gonna die. Unfortunately, she didn't. I say unfortunately because I don't know, something about just in general. I always say that I feel like it's always more interesting when you kill off characters that are well known, because for one, you can replace them and make an even more interesting character, or for two, it's just it doesn't happen enough. Like I just feel like it's so common to do this thing where the characters just don't die and they're conveniently always live. And I don't know, it's just like it bothers me when I see it over and over. So for me, it kind of pissed me off that she survives. Well, spoiler alert, but it's just kind of like, okay, you literally look, it looks like she's dead. Like it doesn't look like she could possibly live. And of course, she literally later on survives and has perfect recovery. And then, of course, if this creature flees the scene and now you're stuck under rubble and you fall asleep unconscious. And next thing you know, you're waking up and an antlion's about to feast on Alex until this Vortigern comes out of nowhere and saves the day. Who knows where he came from? I don't know, but it's cool. And he basically helps us get to an area where he can basically heal Alex. And what I love about this game is that they really fleshed out Vortigerns to be really cool because, sure, Vortigerns existed before, so I'm not saying that. But, they don't really interact often. But now, in this game, you're going to be interacting with Vortigerns for a long portion of the first half of the game. And then their voice acting is phenomenal, and just the way they speak is hilarious to me. Like, hey, Freeman. It's like, all right, bro, it's the Freeman. So now you have to go down these mines, and you end up in this cave full of like tiny bugs and egg sacs, which I don't know, just reminded me of spiders. And I'm not a big fan of spiders, so it just got me on edge because I felt like some big spider or something was gonna come out of nowhere and just destruct me. And of course, they also introduce a new enemy, and this enemy is introduced well in the sense that, like, sure, it's not my favorite enemy ever because I actually find it annoying, but it's actually implemented more than 2 or 3 times, and that is this like bug that like basically bombs you from afar with projectiles. It's annoying. I hate it. But at least it's implemented more than once. I can't be mad at it. I mean, the big thing about this enemy that I can praise it for is that it does make you reposition yourself often. You can't just stand around and be like, I'm gonna fight the ant lions from a distance. No, you actually have to be like moving around tactically now because otherwise you could get hit and it's gonna be annoying. Um, but it's cool though. Anyways, you end up in a landing in this area where the rebels are, and or citizens, I should say. I just call them rebels. I don't know. And basically, this is where they're gonna heal Alex, as well as the fact that these idiots are defending this area from antlions, and they're like, "Hey, we can use your help." So, okay, cool. I'm not the biggest fan of this area. I think gameplay-wise, this and it's the weakest part of this game, Half-Life 2 Episode 2. Mainly just because it's just waves and waves and waves and waves, and it's not even like it's a challenge because they give you 2 turrets, and yes, they do destroy eventually, but I mean, the NPCs literally take over in the later half of the waves, and you basically can just look down one little tunnel and be fine. Because if you're smart enough, you basically will have it so that all the other tunnels are covered by either turrets or NPCs. So it's like, I never found this particularly challenging, and they also give you infinite ammo. So it's like, I guess this is cool. I don't really mess with it though. It's just kind of boring. It also lasts like way too long, which is annoying. After fighting off these waves, we find out that in order to safely revive Alex, we need to extract this serum from a cave, and it's like a rare serum that is heavily guarded or something. And now you're knee deep into the nest of this creature or whatever creature it is, clearly, because there's a lot of dead bodies and blood everywhere. So it's like, okay, what am I getting myself into? And there it is. There's the creature. And honestly, yes, is it intimidating? 100% yes. But also, I'm pretty sure it's one of a very similar creature from Half-Life 2, so that's unfortunate. I felt like they could have done something a little more intimidating. But the reason why it's still intimidating, even though we already seen it, is the fact that it will charge you and it does a lot of damage. And the way the caves are designed is basically you will barely get to a safe point and safely without getting hit. And it's intimidating. It's scary to like get charged from behind you, knowing this creature's chasing you, and you're barely able to make it where you need to be to survive. I just find that scary. I don't know. I think it's done well. You just gotta go through all these little crevices it can't reach throughout the cave, and next thing you know, you're in this. You have to lower an elevator for the Vortigern, and oh, now you can get the extract. Pretty cool. I think it's pretty cool how they did the extract. The room it's in is like this massive like cave system that's really open, and it's just in this random like rock. It's fascinating. It's like, oh wow, so apparently all these rocks have this serum, I guess. I don't know. Then you go back up, and now these Vortigons do some weird practice that is able to revive Alex, with your help, of course. And then next thing you know, you're hallucinating, or I guess having a vision of the G-Men. And this is a really interesting moment because the G-Man goes on about explains himself, which is so interesting because up to this point, the G-Man is kind of like I said, this guy who just kind of is mysterious. Well, not kind of. He is mysterious, and we don't know much. So for him to just kind of tell you, like, oh, here's what I'm doing, it's like, oh, wow. He basically says that he picked Alex, bid on her, whatever that means, and everyone objected to him. Who's everyone? I don't know. He then tells you to basically safely bring Alex to this lab and that he's restricted to help you. So it's basically saying, hey, the fate of my bid is in your hands. And then he also tells Alex that what this phrase he wants her to say to when he meets Eli, which is kind of strange, whatever. And now you're off to the lab. And now the first thing that happens is you're fighting these two beasts that were in the cave system. Because you obviously messed up their cave system and stole the serum or something. I don't know, but whatever. They're angry at you obviously because you were in there, and they jump you. It's a pretty cool moment. You get to use these explosive barrels with if you want to like kill them faster, which is what I did. Then you get to this part where there's a car at a bridge. You go through some zombies. You gotta go through a bunch of poison water and whatnot to get to this car, and now you got this car that actually drives, which is very interesting. Now we get to the driving section of the game. I don't think it's bad, but it is kind of formulaic a little bit in the sense that it's pretty much like Half-Life 2 with the boat missions, where it's a lot of just doing a lot of driving, not much else, which isn't inherently bad, but it is kind of like the weakest point of the game is the driving because it's not necessarily fun after you do it for more than like 2 seconds. That's just my opinion. But at least you get to go through stops and do stuff, as I'll talk about. The first stop has you stopping at this like little house thing, which is because there's a gate in the way. Yeah, you go in this house, and next thing you know, you're getting ambushed by hunters, which, the game emphasizes like, oh, be quiet, don't move. The hunters will see you, and you see these hunters looking through the windows, and you're like, oh my god. And of course, that scared me. And knowing that it's scripted now, it's just kind of unfortunate, but at the time, it scared me shitless because I was still scared of these hunters. Like, they were creepy creatures at the moment. I was like, oh my god. Um, and you get ambushed by the hunters, and now you actually have to fight them, and they're actually kind of hard to fight. They have a lot of health, but it's pretty. I think it's a cool. I think they're one of the coolest enemies and concepts. They make such cool noises. They are just cool. I mean, adding this to the game is so just amazing. Like it really makes the Combine go from like, okay, an alien force, I guess, to okay, maybe it is an alien force. To me, up to this point, it's like the Combine never really particularly looked like it was an alien force. Like, sure, the Striders did, but that's about it. Like everything else just looks like it could potentially have been human made. So, it's just cool to like really make them distinguished. I don't know. And anyways, you keep driving and get stopped by a gate, another gate, and next thing you know, you're getting some weird hallucinations at this random house. It turns out that this alien creature that you saw from episode 1 is in this house, and it shows its power because it literally can just control gravity and lift things up, which is really overpowered. And it's about to eat you, but luckily you're able to turn off the power, and it just yeah, it has a whole spasm. But of course, by doing this, it basically alerts the entire Combine force. So now you gotta kill a bunch of Combine members, which, is pretty cool, especially how they introduce this moment. And next thing you know, as you're driving, this helicopter chases you, raining bombs onto you. So now you're driving through a bunch of trains, these abandoned train tracks, avoiding all these bombs. It's pretty fun. Honestly, this part is pretty cool. And, eventually your car ends up exploding, so you have to take shelter underneath some trains, and then you find out there's resistance members here, so They're basically like, hey, we'll help you fight this helicopter. So then you use your gravity gun to throw the bombs back at the helicopter are dropped, which is such a cool feature, and it's really satisfying to do because it's actually kind of hard to aim them properly. And just the idea of like using their own medicine against them is really cool to me. Anyways, yeah, so this is a pretty peaceful moment, I think. Anyways, now you gotta repair your car, obviously, because you gotta keep going. And so while the car is being repaired, you gotta clear up the way ahead because there's lots of zombies. And next thing you know, you have to use this like car lineup to avoid turret sniper fire. For some reason, there's just like these sniper turrets that are extremely accurate, just set up, and you basically have to ambush it from behind and explode the fuse, which is pretty cool again. Now you're back on the road, and yeah, there's a few other stops and stuff. Like, for example, there's item caches on the road now because the guy upgraded your car so that you can see with some item caches that are scattered around. I personally didn't go to most of them until I did a repeat playthrough because there's an achievement for it. But I don't think they're particularly useful necessarily, but they're still a cool concept. And there's more other things that happen, but I'm just going to skip past them because they're not really too needed to talk about. So let's just get to the point. You eventually end up getting to the lab. And immediately with, I always say this when it comes to Half-Life, dude, the world building is phenomenal because the second you enter this lab, you just see people doing their thing. There's so much activity happening. You got people having conversations that are actually interesting to listen to. And these are just background NPCs. It's so cool. It makes me feel like I'm actually in like an operations base that's functional. Anyways, you end up seeing Eli, and he basically brings you down to the main operations area, so you can give the data over to Dr. Klein, and then you see this rocket, and basically you end up meeting Dr. Matheson, who's you kind of have met on some like video calls occasionally, like once or twice maybe. And I don't know who he is. I don't know where he came from. I'm not complaining. He's a cool character. He's basically someone who takes like the whole idea of like saving the world so seriously that he basically does not mess with any other distraction. Like if you try to be friendly with him or just chit chat, he's gonna maybe mad. So it's a kind of like he feels like an asshole low key, but then you realize, oh wait, he's doing this for the good of humans. Okay, maybe he's onto something. Um, anyways, an alarm starts beeping, and basically Dr. Matheson's like, hey Freeman, you need to help me because you're competent. And this part is so interesting to me because it basically, from what it sounds like, is it's common for errors to happen in this bunker, but then it turns out that it's not the case. But of course, before that happens, you hear Dr. Matheson saying, "Oh, all my employees are incompetent." It's just so funny to me. Anyways, yeah, and then you find out, the Combine are actually raiding through this cool, epic scene where basically a hunter is cinematically killing this guy in the smoke. I think it's just so cool looking. And then Dr. Matheson's like, oh shit, his things are going down. And yeah, now basically he orders you to close an overhead silo door, which for some reason is open. And, you gotta do that, so you fight off all these Combine members, you close the door, and now it's time to review the data. And basically, I don't fully understand everything about this, but basically it's like, hey, they found a video of Borealis. Borealis has something very powerful that like went missing a long time ago, and basically Eli is really very, very insistent on getting rid of it, and that it should never be found or touched unless by someone who wants to destroy it. Also, something to note is that Aperture Science logo actually appears in the video that pops up very briefly, which means that, the whole idea of Portal and Half-Life actually have interconnecting worlds, which I find super fascinating. I don't really understand the lore of Aperture Science all that well because, to be honest, I'm just not a lore nerd for Portal, and it's been a while since I've played Portal anyways. So, like, I'm not really sure exactly how it connects to this game, but I'm sure it does somehow. But anyways, that's a whole different conversation. It's just cool that it's basically, hey, Aperture Science is here. Hey, that's cool. It's a cool callback. But yeah, Eli is basically freaking out that Black Mesa will happen again if, with this whole Borealis thing. I don't really fully understand it, but yeah, whatever. And then Alex ends up saying the line that G-Man said to say, which is basically that prepare for unforeseen consequences. Which just causes Eli to fall over, and then that causes Alex to go be like, "Oh, I'm gonna get some tea." And basically Eli freaks out, and he's having this private conversation with us, telling us that the last time he heard those words was at Black Mesa, and that's when we, the player, told him that, which is so interesting. Because it just adds some lore. It does add some lore that we are very important to G-Man as well. Obviously, we already knew that, but like we now know that he told us stuff and we actually followed his orders. That's cool. I mean, it is kind of stupid though because he claims that technically that you said these words to him before you put the crystal in and like caused the whole portal thing. In Half-Life 1, that just didn't happen. So it's like, okay, technically, not really. You're kind of adding details to the story that just didn't happen in the game, but I don't mind it. I'm not gonna be like, oh my god, this is such a big deal. Like, okay, whatever. It's still a cool detail. I guess is what I'm trying to say. It might not be realistic necessarily, but it's fine. But yeah, Eli clearly knows who G-Man is, which is super fascinating because it doesn't seem like anyone else knows about him at all. But how does he know this? It leads you wondering, why does Eli know about this? He clearly has a lot more to say, and he literally tells us that. But unfortunately, Alex comes back and then, Dr. Matheson comes in and is like, hey, you stop with the tea time. And then, yeah, he basically orders us to follow him. And this part of the game is also really cool. There's a lot of cool parts, obviously. We're basically, there's a known Strider, like, attack that's going to happen to the compound, and you basically have to help defend it. And he gives you some basic training with this technology made, this, like, bomb that sticks to the Striders. So you basically have to shoot the bomb with your gravity gun and aim it to you know, hit the Strider, and then it'll stick to the Strider, and then you just have to shoot it and it'll explode. Pretty cool. And then of course you actually end up defending. And this is so cool the way they did this. So basically, there's like multiple different like safety outposts scattered around, and these Striders will come by, and most of them are targeting the main lab, and they're defended by hunters. So you have to kill the hunters in order to kill the Strider, which I think is really cool concept because otherwise it'd be so easy to kill the Striders. But what makes this thing so interesting is the way they do it. Most of the Striders are slow and actually are pretty easy to kill because you have plenty of time to do it. But then there's 3 Striders, and I think the wave of 12 of them. There's 3 of them that move extra fast and will destroy and targets the safety buildings. Which is super fascinating because it varies up the whole thing and puts you on edge. And the way they do it is super interesting too because they make, I think it was wave 2, wave 6, and 7. The second one you see will most likely immediately destroy the first safety outpost you start at, and it will put you on edge like, oh my god, I gotta actually defend. And then they don't even send any more out until later, and then they put 2 back to back, making you be like, oh my god, they're actually, this is a huge threat. And then for the rest of the waves, it's literally normal. I think this is such a fascinating way to do it because it's like, it puts you on edge and it's like actually makes you like feel like this is way more threatening than it is, because in reality, it's not really threatening. Besides those fast ones that target the buildings, this is an easy thing. I mean, you literally could struggle for like a way too long and there's no threat. Very cool. I love it. You come back to the compound and Dr. Matheson's like, thank you. But obviously he struggles to say thank you because he's a hard ass, or I don't know. He's hard to be compassionate, I guess. He doesn't like to express feelings. You know people like that, so it's realistic enough. And now you get to see the launch of the rocket, and even get to press the launch button, which is pretty cool. And you go outside to get a nice view of the rocket, and right as you're about to do that, Eli stops us and tells us that he believes G-Man is behind Borealis, and that it must be destroyed no matter what. Which, if that's the case, it would make sense because, I mean, why would Alex say prepare for unforeseen consequences, right? And then he basically says, hey, I have more to say, but right now is not the moment. So then we go to see the rocket, and the rocket actually get rid of the portal, which is super cool because for once in this doomed world, something goes right. is actually astonishing. You're like, oh, the game's about to end. Wait, what? Where's the credits? Oh, okay. You're gonna leave to go to the Borealis lab and find Mossman. Okay, we'll end off on the note of you going in the train. Cool. No, instead there's flying bugs that come in, and they are very overpowered, and basically they slurp Eli up and kill him, and then they're about to kill Alex, and then Dog comes in, saves her, and then they flee away. And yeah, that's the game, basically with Alex weeping over Eli. Now, I don't know how to feel about the ending because, on one hand, it's not necessarily a cliffhanger necessarily because obviously we basically see the results. It's not like we're wondering, oh my God, did Alex survive? Did Eli survive? Like it's almost pretty clear that Eli's dead, and that's probably the direction they're gonna go with the story, considering the fact that, to be honest, like Eli seems like a very important character in the sense he knows too much, and so obviously they're gonna kill him off so that we kind of have some mystery in the air instead of just making him live and then just reveal everything we need. I feel like that's the direction they'll go. I don't know though, obviously. No one actually knows. But yeah, I don't hate the ending, but obviously knowing that there was an episode 3 and then it got scrapped entirely is kind of unfortunate because it just kind of leaves you on this note of like, okay, so you just got a lot of things you want to see happen. Like I want to see what's happening at Boris Lab. I want to be able to see like where is Mossman, even though I don't really care about her. Like it's just and of course I want to know more about G-Man. It's like I don't know, man. It just kind of sucks that this is the end. If this was in the end of the series for like a couple years, I wouldn't be this mad. But knowing that it's been like a lot of years, like over a decade, and there's not even a confirmed announcement necessarily of Half-Life 3. I mean, people speculate that it's coming out, but it's not confirmed. So it's like, okay, I just, it's kind of unfortunate. The big takeaway of episode 2 in particular is that it did the best stuff of all the games. It takes the fun gameplay, the engaging gameplay with variety. It takes the engaging story that has you sitting in your seat and wondering in like actually being engaged with it and wondering like and thinking about it. It takes the lore aspect. It does everything perfectly. Like, yes, is there sections that I'm not the biggest fan of? Like, I'm not the biggest fan of the whole, like, driving car to certain specific areas and then having to stop and progress just to be able to drive more. That's not my type of cup of tea necessarily. But it doesn't matter because it's like everything else is. There's so much things they did right with this that it's actually insane. Like, compared to Half-Life 2, it's just so much better because everything's done right. There's not really any flaw I can name overall. Like, yeah, there's moments that might not be the best, but that doesn't matter. I think the thing that really stands out to me is the story and how they actually improved upon the story so much. Because my big concern with Half-Life 2, with Half-Life as a whole, was that it kind of felt too vague and just there was too many questions. And I feel like both episodes did a good job at offering little hints and details of what happened to get us to the point where we are now. And at this point, I'm kind of satisfied. Sure, is there things I might want to know more? Sure, of course, but you don't need to know everything. It's the principle of actually, mentioning things like the idea of the 7 Hours War or how they actually went through the portal. It's things like that that help us paint the picture of the story, which I appreciate the most. But yeah, that's my Half-Life 2 and episode 1 and 2 review. I would definitely recommend playing these. If you haven't, please do. It's phenomenal. Thanks for watching. If you got this far, I appreciate you so much. Anyways, have a good rest of your day. Peace.